My name is Emily Nadeau, and we're here at Sugarfoot Yarns in Peachtree City, Georgia. And today we're adding to our techniques on our YouTube channel. And today we're going to do how to block. So I've got things kind of set up here in two different places. One of the things about blocking is you need to know exactly what kind of yarn you have. So what I tell everybody here is that you steam your vegetables and you soak your animal fibers. So these are fur or animal, and there is wool and kid mohair and a little bit of silk in this one. So you always kind of default to the largest quantity, and the biggest quantity in here is 70% of superwash merino, which is a sheep, and a wool. So what you're going to want to do with these is soak, and these are kind of the supplies that you need. You need a mat. If you take a look over there, I've kind of got one set out already, and that helps a lot as a place for you to put pins in and a place for you to lay it and leave it. So you can put this on a table or you can put it on your bed, but they can be configured any way you want that your shape of your shawl or your garment is. What you need is a container to soak in. You need a towel to roll it up in afterwards to squeeze out all the excess water. So you're going to roll it into a tube, and I highly recommend getting something called Soak. And Soak is just about a capful inside some warm water, and you let your garment soak. I let it soak at least for a couple hours. I have been known to let it go overnight or even to the next day. I also like to use essential oils with mine. So if you, this one happens to be a non-scented, or yeah, it's called Lacy actually, but it goes away. But if you have something, especially if you've done a homespun, you might want to put a couple drops of purification in, or if you want it to smell wonderful, you can do tangerine, or just a couple drops of peppermint, but whatever you want to soak it in so that it has a nicer smell. So I highly recommend that you kind of put a couple drops in with your soak, and then you pull it out, you drain it, and you roll it in the roll.
You don't need to rinse the soak out.
You don't need to rinse the soak out at all. That's true. Thank you, Laura. Because you don't want to have any more agitation. The more agitation you have, the more likely it is to felt. So you really just want to squish it out, and then you drain the water out, and then you kind of roll it like a jelly roll in your towel, and you really squish the excess out. If you are doing linen, or you're doing cotton, or you're doing a combination of, this one's wonderful, this one's silk and linen, this is made in here. Or if you're doing one like this that has 50% cotton and 50% wool, you default to the hardest one, which is the cotton. So you want to steam your vegetables, and that's by getting a really good iron and putting it on the steam mode, and we're going to do that in a minute. What you're going to do though, if you've done it from the jelly roll, or if you're just going to steam it, you're going to come on over to your mats and you're kind of roll it out. This one, though it is merino wool, the designer has asked that it just be steamed. So we're going to steam this one. And what it is Wonderland's sushi roll. So it's a scarf, and when you roll it up, it's a sushi roll. So cool. So when you're doing that, you need something to pin it with. If you are doing lace, or if you're doing straight edges, you may want to use wires that come out. They're long, thin wires, and you can just feed them through and then pin those. But right now, we're just going to kind of quickly go through this one. You want to make sure that you have fed in all of your loose ends, but that you have not cut them. And the reason why you haven't cut them is that when you start spreading out, you don't want it to pop to the other side. You'll cut those when you're finished steaming. So I love these, and I'll show those to you in a second. But you can use T-pins to hold it in place, or you can use these wonderful pins that we have. They're from Knitter's Pride, and they're knit blockers. And I love them because they act like lots and lots of together. So you want to kind of bring your sweater out or your garment out. This is a cowl, and you want to bring it. And what you want to do is you want to measure. And I thought I had a measuring tape right here. Hold on, guys. One thing short. Here it is. And you want to measure the inches because it will tell you in your pattern what you want it to be. So you want to keep it even because this is the time that you're going to open up the garment, and the garment's going to remember where you would like it to stay. So I also highly recommend that you use centimeters instead of inches because centimeters is a smaller and you can be more careful with it. But if you don't like that, you can use inches. And right now it's just 11 inches, so I'm gonna just make sure. Okay, so the pins are great, but I really like the blockers because the blockers will make a nice square for me. So you can see I've steamed it, and we have some nice definition in here. So then you can just go ahead and move forward onto the next color, and always keep measuring. You can see there I need a 1/4 inch. Now I've had people come into the store and say, oh, I really don't like my garment. It is one size too small, or it's one size too big, or one or the other. And what I say to them is that we can block up a size or we can block down a size. And basically that is done. Let me take the steamer. And when you steam a garment, it can be stretched. See how I got an extra bump? Or it can be brought out to be larger. I needed a 1/2 inch on this side right here. Or, while it's warm, I can bring it together and pat down and have them come together as a size. So you can see how it can move it in, or we can move it out just by playing with the yarn. So I think it's hard to see the tail on that black one, but it's easier to see it here on this white one. You see I have the tail, and I have woven it in. There's the black one, and there's the white one. But I've left them long because when I'm doing that, there's a real good possibility of it popping through. So when everything is cool and everything is dry, and it can sit here, if you are doing it wet, you may have to have it. It may take a couple days. It may take at least a couple hours for it to dry. And you do not want to move your needles off of your pins off of it until everything is cooled and is completely dry. When everything's completely dry, then you're going to come back and cut these with a 1/2 inch so it doesn't pop up, and it'll stay there for you. So you just kind of keep yourself moving along. And right here my gauge was a little bit different. I might have been watching TV and it might have gotten exciting while I was watching it. So I want to kind of work that back in to it. Do you see how I can lose that? So let's say I had a horrible mistake. I had a hole that I never saw before, or it's just in the wrong place, or I've done a lace shawl and I find a hole. At this point, I could take a needle and thread and I can sew up the hole. And I can make it, which is why I like doing it from the back, because then I can repair something and then I can do it back. So this is too warm to touch, but down here is cool. So I can take it off. I normally would just let it stay, but I can take these off. And I just wanted to quickly show you because this is getting to be too long as it is. But what I want you to see is the lovely stitch definition that's on the other side. And I'm hoping the fact that it's black, we won't miss it too much. But you can see how it's nicely, and there's no curling up on the sides or at the end. And it's just a nice stockinette. And but all the stitches are the same size, and they're all uniform, nothing's sticking up, nothing's going down. So it just looks finished. I've always said that the difference between handmade and homemade is blocking and knowing your gauge. So you get the appropriate gauge, but when you block it, you are finishing it so that it looks like a lovely handmade garment. So please block your projects. Have any other questions, please let us know here in Peachtree City at Sugarfoot Yarns. You can give us a call, and we'd be glad to answer your questions. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.